And okay, now it's live on YouTube. Apparently it was not set appropriately. Okay, so let me get the link and share that. Okay. Sorry for the delay. I had to adjust my settings a little bit with my microphone to actually get it to work on YouTube. And weird. No. There we go. Okay. Oh, why, hello there.
I mean,
Sorry, I'm struggling just a bit. Okay.
nothing is going on. Just a second. Can you say something?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect. Hello, everyone.
And I can hear you okay too. Let me get to
Thank you. Stop. Please stop.
what? Where is
He just can't let go of the CMC thing.
oh.
He just won't stop.
Okay.
Okay, so just pretend I'm not here. Let's do the ordinary
All right, fair enough.
schedule.
Fair enough. Well, I wanted to cover a few things then before we jump into some of the questions. First off, Dyson's TVL is over 600,000, which for a bear market is awesome. Sphere's TVL is over 9.7 million, which is also pretty staggering. And the percent sphere locked, which I think is the most impressive number, is already over 31%. I'm astounded by that number, honestly. I never thought it would be that high this quickly. So, massive shout out to the community for getting it to that extent so quickly. Two things I wanted to get into because I've seen questions come up a lot. The first is with ylSPHERE about compounding versus claiming. Many of you may know this already, but you have the option to either claim your real yield or compound it. You have to manually do it each time. So if you claim your yield, it will simply go directly to your wallet. Whatever you've earned up to that point in time will go to your wallet. If you click compound, it will take the WMATIC and use that to buy more sphere and stake it into the ylSPHERE pool to compound that into the ylSPHERE pool. The rest of the earnings go into your wallet. But ultimately, and one of the biggest questions coming up is, it's not a click it once and it will continue to do that. It's something that you have to manually do. So you are either manually claiming or manually compounding, and you can do that as frequently or infrequently as you would like. Nice, Team Clara, coming up strong on the curve. The other thing I wanted to point out is that there's a difference between your within the different LP vaults, not within ylSPHERE, but within the different LP vaults, there's a difference between your two deposited token balance and the LP balance. So what you will see is that, for example, when you go to withdraw your LP, that number is going to be very different than the actual tokens that you have. And that is normal because that is the LP balance. And that's going to be separate from the two actual token balances that you have within the LP. That may merit a video of some sort at some time in the future. Maybe not, but potentially. So if it needs to be, that's okay. And if not, that's okay too. All right. So let me go ahead and there we go. Share that in Stageboard. Thank you, Aqua. Much appreciated. Okay, did I miss any questions? Hello, hello. Thank you all for being here. Much appreciate. Okay. So those are the two things I wanted to address because, again, I've seen a lot of questions about that. But we can move on to the stage questions, of which there are quite a few. So we should get started. Oh, look at that. Very fancy. So in stage chat, Lilo just dropped a very nice breakdown of the current Sphere tokens in terms of total supply, the burnt supply, the circulating supply, and a breakdown of how that circulating supply exists currently. Very cool. It's a very nice illustration. Indeed. All right. So in terms of AMA questions, then let's get started on those. Crazy Turk had asked, what percentage of Dyson fees are used for buyback burning? If is there / will there be a place where we can see this? And then Jaguar Paw also asks something similar. What are thoughts on Bernie funds going to Dyson to help with yield, or is that not possible? And I actually want to quickly quote one of the recent announcements that burning has been put on hold currently. There's only so much yield that can be generated from the treasury to be economically profitable and sustainable. And so using that yield to burn Sphere right now wouldn't really make sense. Almost at this point, yeah, almost a third of the circulating supply is completely locked. So everyone would see the price of Sphere go up, but wouldn't actually be able to sell. So that is why we've decided to provide that revenue into real yield instead for the time being. That yield supports Sphere as a token, and so there will always be demand for people to earn yield from blue chip assets, which Sphere is providing. So then that also provides a better price floor that is much stronger than burning tokens, because burning only encourages people to sell versus holding the token to earn the yield from it. Burns will come back at the team's discretion and possibly under a different concept, but for now the focus is on yield. Right. Team Clara also noted it would also reward non-lockers with exit liquidity. So
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, go ahead.
what would you rather have? Would you rather have a system where, okay, we've already implemented a locking system, so long-term holders are rewarded with yield. Would you rather have that yield get thrown into raising the price of Sphere, but you can't sell because you're earning yield? Or would you rather just earn yield over time, or well, more yield?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and you know, I in my mind it's a balance, but at the same time there's a big argument to push for real yield, especially right now given the market conditions. And you're also, like you mentioned, really favoring those who are putting more risk into the protocol by actually yield locking. Those are the ones that you are rewarding, which does make more sense.
Yeah, this is not to say that we won't deflate. We're deflationary, and we're sticking with that. However, um, we feel that, or rather, to be quite honest with you, it is a much better, suitable option to reward the lockers more. We will deflate. We have a bunch of ideas already. Some obvious, some aren't so much, unless you follow what we have in the treasury. But we're not kicking deflation in the backseat.
Yeah, which makes sense given the release of Dyson and ylSPHERE, and the focus is now on yield. So I think it follows very nicely with that narrative right now. All right, good question though. Um, Melio Das had asked, "Do you recommend the thousands% APY staking?" um, and to this question, we say we recommend reading through the FAQ and the beginning videos under the Start Here section of the Dyson part of Discord first, no matter what. And then from there, the best thing any investor can do is have a plan. And a big part of that plan is how much of your portfolio should be devoted to low risk, high risk investing plans. And that should then help you dictate where the best place to allocate funds would be. Regarding the high APYs of some of the Dyson's vaults, which I think is what you're referring to, be aware that these are true APYs, thanks to it's true yield, thanks to concentrated liquidity and swap fee revenue. But for that same reason, the fact that it's from swap fee revenue, concentrated liquidity, the APY is going to fluctuate significantly for each vault. And all liquidity pool vaults are subject to impermanent loss. So again, please do your due diligence, educate yourself about these matters first before choosing to invest. And like DeFi Panda mentioned, certain assets will be more correlated than others, meaning certain assets will be less liable to impermanent loss than others. So it all comes down to education and having an investment plan, and then also understanding where is that yield coming from and what risk are you taking to achieve that yield. Good. Okay. Just looking back real quick at the, is there any questions? I think we're good. All right. S Palace had asked, Galaxy Marketplace was supposed to be beneficial because sellers got a tax discount and buyers bought at a lower price. Now that there are zero taxes, what's the benefit of selling on the marketplace? And again, I'd actually like to quote the announcement. Sphere buy bonds will exist when the protocol has Sphere and is willing to exchange that for other hard assets such as USDC or accumulate tokens in the future to grow governance. But with the elimination of taxes, the opportunity for arbitrage by buying Sphere from high taxed individuals through sell bonds and then selling it to new token holders is no longer available. So you are correct in that there is no true value in offering sell bonds when the taxes are at zero. We could always bring back taxes and then offer the slight discount. No, I'm just kidding. taxes are gone forever, which means sell bonds through Galaxy Marketplace are retired. Yes, hopefully I didn't give anyone a heart attack with that. Just a joke. Taxes are gone. All right. Kyle had asked, now that we've successfully launched Dyson, can we have unknown Penrose looked at for the reward emission issue? So Penrose and Unknown are very much part of the Sphere ecosystem and will continue to be. And they are built on top of Dystopia Cone, which is controlled by the Tetu team. We've covered these types of things before, but Tetu has stated that those protocols are going to be getting an overhaul. So that first next move is going to be made by Tetu. The Sphere team, we're very excited for these upgrades, and we will certainly react to them and see how we can improve Penrose Unknown once Dystopian Cone's upgrades are complete. Welcome, welcome. Pibbles asked, are we using the Sphere's treasury to farm? Yes, indeed. Bam Bam, but bonds are also for price impact, aka not dumping the chart. To some extent, yes. But they really also were, they needed taxes in place in order for them to make sense. So now that taxes are forever gone, the sell bonds don't make sense anymore. Also, regarding price impact, there's a lot stronger of a reason to become a sphere holder and most specifically become a yield locked Spherian because of the real yield that's being provided to Sphere. Pibbles a lot more than 600K. So that you may be referring to Dyson's TVL is around 600,000. That's not the Sphere Treasury. That specifically refers to the TVL of Dyson, I think is where you're getting that number. All right. While we are going through, oh yeah, and thank you, CryptoFat. A post from Belbix, who is part of the Tetu team, Dystopia Cone team, had given an ETA of 1 to 2 months for the updates. But yes, as Lilo pointed out, it's really not our place to give updates on those projects. So if you are curious, then I encourage you to, go to those specific projects and ask around. All right, while that is going on within stage chat, I've got another question here from stage questions. From K-Thor, is auto compounding automatically done at certain intervals once we select, or is this something we have to manually do when we choose? If not perpetually automatic, what time interval maximizes our APY? So I think you are referring to ylSPHERE, and the initiation of compounding of ylSPHERE is done manually by you, and then each time you want it to compound, you have to click compound. And the more frequently that you manually compound, the higher the resulting APY. And that's just from a purely mathematical standpoint. If you're referring to the actual Dyson LP vaults other than ylSPHERE, then compounding is going to be done automatically. But I think you're referring to ylSPHERE. All right. Let's see. Is quantum liquidity still waiting on Tetu v2? As far as I know, yes, that is still part of what Tetu is working on. Okay. Prince Eval. Hi team, I'm in Dyson with the WMatic USDC pair. How do I make money? It doesn't seem to be increase anything and there's no withdrawal options. So I see that you had asked this question in the Dyson chat, and then per the direction of Ember Void, uh, hold on now. Yeah, you started in stage questions, then you moved to Dyson chat per Ember Void's direction. So thank you, Ember. And then Ape stepped in and answered. So thank you, Ape. But the team is working on some UI tweaks to give you a better viewpoint on some of the Dyson strats deposits and how they grow. But not all strats show the same way. And then in the meantime, all Dyson vaults except ylSPHERE are auto compounding, meaning that your position within Dyson will grow by simply having deposited into the vault. And it takes a little bit of understanding of Uniswap v3 as well. So when you deposit liquidity into Uniswap v3, you're going to be earning swap fees when your liquidity is within range. And those swap fees come, as those two tokens you provided liquidity for. So what Dyson's going to do is automatically keep your liquidity in range and also auto compound those swap fees back into your LP. So that's where you're going to see the revenue coming into. It's going to go back in the LP. And there is a withdrawal option for every single vault where you can withdraw your LP. Just again, bear in mind that when you withdraw, it's going to show the LP, the amount of the LP balance. It's not actually going to show the token breakdown when you withdraw. So just bear that in mind. You can still see a breakdown of the tokens within the deposit menu, though. All right. Just catching up in chat. All right. A newbie. When do we compound earnings in Dyson? So yeah, so again, this question, which is why I wanted to answer it at the very beginning. But thank you, OX Guedes, for answering. In that the compound earnings button will compound the W-matic rewards only once. So if you want to keep compounding your earnings, you will have to do it every once in a while. And there's a reason we did that, right? So not everyone is. The goal of Sphere is to provide that real yield to yield locking Spherians. So not everyone is going to want to continuously build their Sphere earnings. There are going to be people who want to do both, build their Sphere, and also there are going to be people who want to build their real yield or take that yield and turn it into income, for example. So that is why you have the option to either claim or compound, and you can do that as frequently or infrequently as you would like. It's not like a switch that you can turn on and you will continuously compound. It is not like that. You have to manually do it. And then, as per the laws of math, the APR becomes an APY when you manually compound it. And the more frequently you compound it, the higher your resulting APY will be. And you can use different APY calculators, for example, to see what your APY would be if you compounded daily or weekly or monthly, for example. It does increase the more frequently you compound. All right. Airy, I'm having trouble withdrawing my tokens from Sphere Games. Yes. So Sphere Games was having some issues when with token withdrawals, but the team was aware of that, and this has since been resolved. So if you were having issues, please try to withdraw your tokens now. Or if you still have any Sphere in Sphere Games, please withdraw your tokens now. It will be tax-free, and you shouldn't have any errors or issues withdrawing your Sphere. But if you do still experience any issues, please go to #submit-ticket for direct assistance, and one of our moderators will be happy to help you. All right. ylQuis, when Matic rebase? When will we be free of the wens? Probably never, but we will be sure to release information about Lovematic when the time comes. But until then, long live the when. When free, exactly. Probably never. Long live the when. Um, Sarah, it's been a long time since we didn't hear. Oh, it's been a long time since we've heard from Victor. Has any further collaboration been finalized? Thank you for your answer. So, with what Victor's responsibilities for Sphere require him to do, it basically means that we cannot tell you what he has done until well after he has done it. He is kind of like our ninja. Victor is the ninja of Sphere. So the time is getting closer when you get to see the fruits of his labor, but exactly until then, Victor remains a ninja. That's perfect, Ultra. Oh, thank you, Avidith. So Avidith had mentioned I'm currently working on a way to track LP performance and the fees that are generated from each separate vault, working on having it live by the end of the month. So that's awesome, and that'll come into play later on. There's actually a question related to that. But thank you, and you guys are awesome. Victor is the ninja, of course. No, Victor is part of the Sphere staff, who is does an amazing job at establishing connections. Bam Bam had asked simply, when Prion? Yep. To which I say, long live the when. We'll never see the end of it. All right, Plob. Polygon have announced the launch of zkEVM on 27th of March. It's actually Polygon zkEVM beta mainnet. And what does this mean for Sphere? What benefits and improvements can we expect? And will there be any changes to the roadmap? Great questions. Sphere has and continues to be interested in zkEVM for obvious reasons, and those reasons being that zkEVM is a remarkable technology that came much sooner than many expected and is an impressive solution for Ethereum scaling. Applications on Ethereum can literally copy paste onto zkEVM. So Sim mentioned recently that he is excited to start building on zkEVM, but how that building comes to fruition will be released in time. In general, what it means for Sphere from a big picture view is that the more projects within the Sphere ecosystem and Sphere's umbrella, the more revenue for Sphere yield lockers. The overall goal, vision, direction of Sphere is not changing. Rather, with zkEVM, we can continue to expand the ecosystem. So it's very exciting technology, and it's going to be really cool to see what Sim can do. I just imagine him, kind of like cracking his fingers, doing the backwards, getting ready. I'm sure it will be very, very cool. Test soon. Yes, CryptoFat spelled it out more in detail. Victor is part of our core team and plays a huge role in building relationships with other projects and leaders. In a way, Center, yes. So zkEVM will be its own chain built on top of Ethereum that will be able to use, be able to validate transactions with very small gas fees. I really encourage you guys to read up on zkEVM, by the way, if you haven't. Polygon itself has different blogs and information about it. So if you haven't educated yourself already, it's cool to read up on if you're curious. All right. So Cactus, this is kind of an interesting question. somewhat similar to what we've looked at before, but different also, is Penrose able to be adapted to platforms other than Dystopia? And you provided some context to the question, Cactus, so I appreciate that. And, again, we've discussed this before. Dystopia is scheduled to receive updates from the Tetu team in due time. We at Sphere do not have control over that timeline or the updates. However, once Dystopia is updated, Penrose will be ready for its own updates to best maximize yield from Dystopia. So Penrose by itself is not able to expand to other platforms, nor was it ever intended to. It is a yield maximizer for Dystopia, just like how Unknown functions similarly and is a yield maximizer for Cone. The performance of Penrose ultimately depends on the performance of Dystopia. So both Dystopia and Penrose will receive updates in time. But just in general, every time the team builds something, it gives us knowledge and a baseline of code that has the potential to streamline future progress. So, for example, now that Dyson is built, it will be easier to add new vaults over time. So, just kind of thinking generally about that. But Sphere, we are building predominantly with an in-house team. So every project we build makes the next one even more cost effective. And this all leads to a stronger ecosystem overall. Just catching up in the chat now. Good, good, good. Why is Unknown not shown on DeFi Llama under the Sphere Finance section? Actually, I'm not sure. That's a good question, Polar. Leela, do you happen to know the answer to that? Perhaps we can find out an answer as to why and get that addressed. All right. Gosh dang it, Ultra. All right. Plob coming at us with another question. Would it be possible to share how much fees Dyson has generated in its first week and how much of the yield paid out for ylSPHERE has been compounded back as Sphere? So in terms of the very first week with Dyson, it was over $2,000 in fees. In terms of how much yield paid out for ylSPHERE has been compounded back as Sphere, it's kind of impossible to calculate that at this time. But I understand, appreciate, and definitely share your enthusiasm for Dyson. Regarding tracking Dyson's performance, this can be done at a high level through DeFi Llama. And then, as Avidith mentioned, Avidith and Kato have been working on metrics for Dyson and its vaults. So over time, this kind of information should become more accessible to everyone. And huge shout out to both of them for putting in the work to do that, because it just shows how awesome and dedicated our community is. All right. A couple more questions here prepared, but then I see we have some unanswered questions in the state's questions still. Miljo? Matic gas fee is high, like 40 to 50 cents when trying to use the zap function to stake. Is this temporary issue or will it remain high? Yeah, good question. Unfortunately, gas fees for the entire Polygon ecosystem have been high, and that was actually addressed by the Polygon team in an announcement in their Discord this morning, believe it or not. In summary, they said that the system is working exactly as it should, so that's not the issue. The high gas spikes happen when there is a very high volume of transaction activity on the network. They did mention that they are considering tweaking the gas calculations in their next hard fork to help ease gas prices. And then they also referenced to zkEVM that that will have very low gas prices. So ultimately, yes, the reason the gas fees are so high is because the transaction volume has been very high, likely due to the high volatility and yeah, the high volatility of the markets right now and of crypto. Good question. And then T1. What was the main factor for the team deciding to switch the pair back to WMATIC, and will we stay paired to WMATIC from now on, or is there a chance in swapping back to a stable for the remainder of the bear market? So, at this point, we are switched to WMATIC for this foreseeable future. There were several factors that went into this decision, primarily with the transition of Sphere staking from Sphere Games to yield locked Sphere. It made sense to transition Sphere's liquidity. We needed to make it easier for people to swap Sphere. We never intended on staying matched with stables for the long term, and that was mentioned when we initially switched to USD Plus to begin with. Balancer was chosen with 80-20 pairing because that will be the pairing ratio with VE Sphere in the future as well. And being an 80-20 LP means that the price movement of Matic contributes to only 20% of the price change of Sphere. So, and then yes, as Ultra also mentioned, community feedback helped influence that decision as well. So, with an 80-20 LP, another way of looking at it is if Matic changes in price by 5%, then Sphere's price will move the same direction by 1%. So it'll carry 20% of that price change. So that's why 80-20 was chosen as well, because it offers a good balance of minimizing impermanent loss and minimizing volatility, while also still providing sufficient liquidity for swaps. But very good question. All right. Ooh, wow. Got lots of good questions here. Some of them have been answered, but I'll go through them as well. Stevie, does my 16-week lock restart if I compound? The answer is no. So each new lock, each new compound will create a new lock. But actually, it's a bit more nuanced than that, because the new locks are created every week, starting at Thursday at 12 o'clock midnight UTC, which is actually in about 22 minutes. So if you want to compound within this week's lock, you would want to do so before we hit the hour. Anything after that for the next week will go into that next week's lock. So ultimately, no, if you compound, it will not restart your lock. It's going to roll into whatever active epoch lock there is. But that can be kind of hard to understand, understandably. So in its essence, it just simply creates a new lock. All right. Hi, from Good Vibes Only. The latest Dyson tweet mentions Bitcoin as part of the yield for ylSPHERE, but it's not visible / active yet in any time frame of when we'll be able to see Bitcoin rewards. And Lilo had answered, we will give any Polygon fees, and when we get a higher amount of wrapped Bitcoin, we will stream it to the yield. Ando asked, does my deposit amount reflect profits from compounding, or do you only see that when you withdraw? I see price fluctuation from rebalancing and price of the assets. It's hard to figure out gains. I believe you're referring to the actual Dyson LP vaults then, in which case, let me see, does my deposit reflect? Yes, your deposit will begin to reflect profits from compounding. Bear in mind that compounding interest takes time to really snowball and build. So that's one thing. But then also you will indeed see price fluctuation from rebalancing, impermanent loss from the assets as well. And then, as I mentioned, Avidith and Cato are working on a way to more easily track these things. Permanent loss separately. Mr. Grumpy, is there a way to track the LP performance and impermanent loss separately? As Crypto mentioned, it would be quite difficult to do so, but we're trying, or some of the community members are diligently working on a way to try and visualize these things a bit better. LeMay, another when question. Long live the when. Moto, someone said Sphere going to be used as gas eventually for burns. I'm not sure who said that, but I'm not aware of a yay or nay on such a thing. Multi-sig tokens 1.8 consist of what categories? What do you mean by that, Mr. Srini? Or Ms. Ando, yes, the vaults, not the ylSPHERE. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so Ando, it's going to reflect profits from compounding over time because those swap fees are used to compound your deposit. But we will see price fluctuations from rebalancing and also from impermanent loss, and then, of course, from the price of the assets. Okay. Internet. Okay, yeah, Srini, please clarify. From Mr. Ton, why is Dyson website feel slow using Microsoft Edge compared to, say, balance certified website? I'm not exactly certain. Potentially, I did see in one of the Dyson Ideas forums that the background animation may be causing some lagginess for some users, and I know Geo was looking into that. Yeah, Mad Mike, I think responding to Moto, it would be if Sphere created her own blockchain versus using Polygon. And to that, it comes down to use case. You know, to what is the use case of having a Sphere blockchain, and to what extent will that actually benefit Sphere users? All right. Oh, okay, Lemay. Yeah. So I would recommend then, if you are really interested in getting a WETH WMATIC 0.3% Dyson pool, then definitely start with a Dyson Ideas post and go from there. No alpha, I'm sorry. There's a lot of beef for Microsoft Edge. Yep, and thank you, Lilo, for the official comment on that. Who's responsible for the names of those projects? Yeah, they're code names. Google them. They're actually there's a common theme. All right. Well, we've actually made it through the stage questions, so we can take any additional questions in stage chat.
Who's excited for the upcoming AMA?
I know I am.
Which AMA? We said we were gonna do a formal AMA since we didn't do one in a while. What is it allocated to? Sinner. Um, for now, it's the actual allocation is dependent on the situation. We're holding on to those. It could be potentially for burning, liquidity mining incentives, um, so on and so forth. Is there a date set for the AMA? No, not yet. We'll announce one pretty soon. Yes, sir. Okay, let's see. Are there any more questions? When avalanche? That's you mean for Dyson? Well, we won't be porting over vSphere anywhere. I've had this question before. We don't really see the point in having a vSphere equivalent on multiple chains. When quick swap vaults? Um, well, you'll see. As for Penrose and Dystopia like projects, I on Avalanche per se, there's already a bunch of those projects. There's stable swaps like Platypus with their Penrose equivalent vector. Trader Joe Curve is also on Avalanche. So there isn't really a need for a dystopia like project. Thank you, Price.
Mhm.
How am I feeling about the Dyson launch? I feel pretty great actually. We've launched in a pretty turbulent time. Right afterwards, we had a small decrease in the market. And even despite that, we managed to rack up 10 million sphere locked up. That's earning double digit yield in real yield tokens. Um, we're also yielding with about $620,000, which is yielding fees, which is making a pretty good dent in covering the ylSPHERE yield. So I would say that's pretty good, even um, with two pending audits and our plan our initial plan isn't fully in motion just yet. So with all the actual formative launch and its first week was pretty good, all things considered. When we start burning tokens again, are there plans to spur price floors? Um, Something like what Olympus is doing. To achieve that, you need pretty a much more sizable treasury. So it's an interesting concept, but it requires a whole lot of coverage. So maybe something for the future. Can we get on the sex? Well, if they want to provide liquidity for Sphere and host us on their centralized exchange, go for it. Absolutely. Yeah, we could get listed, and it is definitely an option, and it would be a pretty big honor actually to grow to such an extent that you would get approached to get listed with seeded liquidity on a decently sized centralized exchange. That's a pretty good thing. Definitely something to celebrate. No, Binance isn't confirmed yet. Well, yeah, yeah, it is. And back in the day, if you get listed on a centralized exchange, it's like the greatest thing that could ever happen. Nowadays, it's not as exciting. Does the SEC know about us? No, and I hope it stays that way. How often does Dyson compounding occur automatically if no one deposits to a vault? Um, we have it set that about every hour or so.
There was a question in stage questions by Lego Mr. Panda. The red light finance ecosystem has Sphere as a partner on its website. Any updates on that partnership?
Um, well, other than what we've mentioned, what we set out to do on red light, that's about it for now. Can't divulge too much into that. Gauss's our partnership with Gauss is strictly with us building on their chain. So it's about the same as red light, really. So when we get closer to conceptualizing and building out something, we will let you know. Thank you, Zion, for the ones. Some of these things are closer than you might think. Getting on the Ledger app might be good.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. Though it is possible to integrate MetaMask with Ledger.
Yo, Burner just dropped a thread. I'm gonna put it in stage 4 real quick.
Nice. Thanks, Burner.
Is it just me, or are some of the tweets unavailable right now? Bruno, if you could look into that, please. Any plans for STmatic, WMatic, LP? Well, technically, you could utilize a lot of incentives that STmatic would give you with our Lovematic solution, which is coming soon, by the way. Yeah, thank you, Panda, for answering that. When more devs? You might be surprised.
Hmm.
It does happen, but if somebody already deposits, uh, the actual timer itself resets. So, and the actual front end might have a little bit of latency. So it could be a mixture of that. But the actual vaults themselves are definitely compounding and harvesting rewards. Let's answer a few more questions, and then we'll wrap this up.
Sounds good.
Is the core going to roll out AMAs once per week now? I'm not sure where you heard that. We're gonna have a formal AMA very soon. You'll know when it happens, but it's not really in our interest to have AMAs for the sake of having AMAs. We'd like to host formal AMAs when there's significant progress in what we're doing. So you won't see any time wasting get-togethers from the core. The weekly AMAs are there to answer community questions and concerns, also to gauge sentiment. But having the core come on and just say, "Hey, we're still working on this," is not as fruitful, in my opinion.
Thanks for being here, Ando.
See ya, Ando. Oh no, that was just to check when most of the community would prefer to host the AMA that we'll be having soon. A Solana LP on Dyson. Well, it's always possible, but it's not something we've looked into. See ya, good vibes. See ya.
Take care.
Does the ylSPHERE pool itself generate revenue for Dyson? No. The actual ylSPHERE pool, it gives revenue to Sphere lockers. There's no yield that we are taking a cut from, right? And it would be kind of counterproductive in a way. Pandu, it really depends on the volume of the actual vault itself. Okay, one last question. Thank you, Sinner. Yeah, that's not much, Pandu.
I guess there was one comment in State's questions about crypto rank and other platforms can be good for marketing. Maybe time to invest in other marketing strategies, looking at the market condition.
Yeah, definitely. We're trying to get ourselves on DBank for starters, and DeFi Llama will be hosting Dyson pools in the yield section. Uh, if you're not familiar with the whole onboarding process, it takes a while for platforms to get listed for things like yields. Um, TVL is usually the first thing that gets taken care of. So getting ourselves out there is definitely a priority because by all means we have very good vaults with very good projected returns. So by all means that's like definitely free organic marketing because while there are people who chase narratives, so on and so forth, there are also people who just simply check yields, where the yield comes from, and they simply deposit if they like it. And we believe that Dyson is definitely something that you would like to deposit into. And that's one of the things for Dyson, really. For a project of Dyson's category and caliber, seniority plays a pretty big part because, for example, Beefy has simple auto compounders, but you use them because Beefy has been around for a long time. There haven't been any crazy exploits going on, and it has a pretty decent community built around using Beefy and Beefy vaults. So I'm pretty sure that over time Dyson will have that sort of reach, and the way the Spherian community kickstarted it over the first week is very good. It's a very good start. It's definitely right on in the right direction. And we'll start building on top of that. Will Fred, Bernie, and Carl get a visual character? Maybe we could do that. It's actually really cool.
Community fan art always welcomed.
Yes, absolutely. Please, if you draw or know someone who draws, go for it. Oh, come on. AI generated images are pretty good. Will Dyson tap into BNB chain? I'm not gonna confirm or deny just yet. But BNB has a pretty good landscape for that. Okay, let's wrap this up. I said that it was going to be my last question 3 questions ago.
Yeah, good discussion. A lot of questions answered this time. So good job, everyone, and thanks for being here. If you do have further questions, be sure to put them in stage questions and we'll get to them next week. But until then, again, thanks for being here. Always remember that you matter for who you are. And we will see you next time.
See ya, guys.
Take care, guys. Have a good night.